sandwiches, ice cream, coffee and snacks, and many other pleasing treats. Our foods are fresh and tasty, our drinks satisfying and refreshing. They're so good.
Welcome to Average Joe's Drive-In.
And now, on with the show.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 95 of Average Joe's Drive-In. I am your host, TJ Washburn, and this is a review cast. I hope all of you have been doing well, and now kind of back on the regular thing after a couple, 2 or 3 weeks of a break. There we had last week's episode. I just recorded next week's episode with Jamie Gagnon, which is going to be a lot of fun. Jamie's been on the show a few times before, and he's always got some interesting stories and stuff to talk about. So I'm very much looking forward to all you hearing that. But that's next week, so let's get into some movies. And I've been watching some stuff, and it's been a kind of a weird variety, but hey, that's all right. So up first is 2005's Doom.
At a distant research facility, the final 10% of the human genome has just been discovered. And with it, all hell has broken loose. Now, a call for help has gone out.
Game time. Listen up, man. We're going in hot.
If it breathes, kill it.
There's something coming up behind you. It's in the sewer! What is that? We gotta go now.
Evacuate! Evacuate!
Sir, are you okay?
This is an action-adventure horror directed by Andrei Bartowski, I think. I can't pronounce the name, sorry. Runtime of 105 minutes, rated R, stars Carl Urban, Rosamund Pike, and Dwayne Johnson. I watched this one on Netflix. A team of Space Marines, known as the Rapid Response Tactical Squad, led by Sarge, is sent to a science facility on Mars after somebody reports a security breach. There, they learn that the alert came after a test subject, a mass murderer purposely injected with alien DNA, broke free and began killing people. Dr. Grimm, who is related to team member Reaper, informs them all that the chromosome can mutate humans into monsters and is highly infectious. It has been a long while since I last saw this. Shortly after it came out, if I remember right, about the only thing I remember is it being rather underwhelmed. I was rather underwhelmed and not really caring for it. So, after a recent review I saw about it, and that it was recently added to Netflix as well, I decided to give it a revisit. The first 3/4 of this movie is actually rather good. The last fourth feels lazy and kind of kills the momentum that the rest of the film had. Overall, this movie's much more enjoyable than I remember it being. There's some decent gore and some decent effects. The acting isn't too bad. The score felt rather non-existent, so I can't say one way or the other whether or not it added anything. For this type of film, you could do a lot worse. It's not great, but not terrible. It falls somewhere in between. And if you like horror and sci-fi, this scratches both itches. I know I enjoyed it more than the first time. I would even throw it on again at some point. And, you know, it's safe to say because The Rock is The Rock now, and, you know, Dwayne Johnson, and he's got a lot of films under his belt. You know, this was that weird spot. Like, it wasn't quite the, you could tell there was some potential there, but it just wasn't quite that same performance we're used to seeing out of him. And also his character's kind of an asshole, which is kind of weird seeing him in that type of role. But hey, yeah, so I give this a 4 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.2 out of 10. Up next, we're going to follow with another Dwayne Johnson film, and that is 2008's Get Smart.
There has always been a delicate balance between chaos and control. Now, with that balance threatened, it's time to turn to one man.
How do I know you're not control?
If I were control, you'd already be dead.
If you were control, you'd already be dead.
Neither of us is dead, so I'm obviously not from control.
That actually makes sense.
Chaos has learned the identities of all of our field agents. They hit us, and they hit us hard.
Fortunately, we have a new agent.
Who's that, sir?
It's you, Max.
This is the best day of my life! I'm Maxwell Smart. Who are you?
I'm Agent 99.
Is this your stapler?
Yeah.
I set that up. Missed it by that much.
Tuesday's not gonna work. Cannot do Tuesday.
Mom! Sean! See how annoying that is.
This is an action-adventure comedy, directed by Peter Siegel, has a 110-minute runtime, rated PG-13, stars Steve Carell, Anne Hathaway, and Alan Arkin. I watched this on Netflix. When members of the nefarious crime syndicate Chaos attack the U.S. spy agency Control, the chief has to promote his eager analyst Maxwell Smart to field agent. Smart, partnered with veteran Agent 99, blends inexperience, enthusiasm, and ineptitude as he works to thwart a world domination plot hatched by the wily Chaos chief, Siegfried. It's weird how sometimes you're thinking about a movie you haven't seen in a while, and it randomly pops up on one of the streaming services. It's both creepy and oddly satisfying. That was the case with Get Smart. I'd wanted to give it a rewatch, but didn't have a copy to do so. That's when I noticed it was on one of the recently added films that was added to Netflix. So I was like, score. This one is a really solid comedy with some fun action sequences. While the jokes are hit or miss, I feel like they do their job most of the time. There isn't a ton to say about this one other than it's really enjoyable. It's a good flick to throw on when you don't want a straight-up comedy, but also not looking for a serious action film. It blends the genres seamlessly. None of it felt forced, and that's always key to a good story. The film looked good, the performances are solid, and like I said, the comedy works the majority of the time. If you're looking for a fun, easy watch, this one qualifies as such. My rating is a 7 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 6.5 out of 10. Up next, from 1986, Labyrinth.
TriStar Pictures announces the collaboration of 3 extraordinary talents. Jim Henson, creator of The Muppets and Dark Crystal.
Where you go with a head like that?
George Lucas, creator of the Star Wars saga. And one of the most innovative forces in modern entertainment, David Bowie. Together, they will take you into a dazzling world of fantasy and adventure.
There's nothing to be afraid of.
A world where anything seems possible, and nothing is what it seems.
Everything I've done for you. I move the stars for no one. Here we are. Run so hard, run so far.
The world of Labyrinth.
This is an adventure family fantasy directed by Jim Henson, has a 101-minute runtime, rated PG, starring David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, and Toby Froud. I watched this one on Blu-ray. Teenage Sarah is left to babysit her brother Toby, and he will not stop crying. So, Sarah tries to put the baby to sleep by reading him a story, when she accidentally conjures up the Goblin King from the fantasy. He steals the baby and takes him to his castle, which is in the middle of a labyrinth. Now Sarah must solve the labyrinth by midnight, or Toby will be turned into a goblin. In all honesty, I remember not caring for this movie much when I first saw it. It wasn't until I watched it again several years later that I liked it. Since that time, this has slowly crept into the realm of favorites. I've seen it countless times, and it continues to make me smile every time I view it. I love the world that is created in this film and the story. The story is about letting go of childish things and finding out who you are. There's an important message, I think, in the fact that even when you let go of your childlike wonderment, that it's important to hold on to some of it. It's something we need in our lives. I think it's what prevents us from becoming too cynical and jaded and grumpy old people. You know the ones I'm talking about, the get off my lawn folks, you know, those constantly negative. The performances are fantastic, the characters are memorable, the effects are solid, and the music numbers are catchy. It's a film for the whole family. Labyrinth is a fun journey with plenty of laughs that everyone can appreciate, and a film that still holds up remarkably well after all these years. My rating is a 7 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7.4 out of 10. So, speaking of Jim Henson, why don't we move on to 1982's The Dark Crystal?
In a place outside time lies a mystical realm of sound and vision. A wondrous civilization. Where good and evil struggle to possess the Dark Crystal.
This is an adventure family fantasy directed by Jim Henson and Frank Oz. Has a 93-minute runtime, rated PG, stars Jim Henson, Catherine Mullen, and Frank Oz. I watched this one on DVD. Chen, raised by the noble race called the Mystics, has been told that he is the last survivor of his own race, the Gelflings. He sets out to try to find a shard of the Dark Crystal, a powerful gem that once provided balance to the universe. After the crystal was broken, the evil Skeksis used sinister means to gain control. Jen believes that he can repair the Dark Crystal and bring peace back to the world if he can only find the remaining shard. This is another one that's been a long favorite film of mine. The Dark Crystal is one of those movies I watched countless times as a kid. So many times I lost count. There has always been a bit of a magic to this one for me. I still enjoy the hell out of it and throw it on every now and again. I'm also very excited about the upcoming Netflix series, especially after the things that I've heard, hopefully those are true and I'm not going to repeat them because I don't know if they are. I don't really have too much to say about this one other than it's still a gem of a film. The practical puppet effects, the score, the story, they all weave a tale that sucks you in and gets ingrained in your mind. It sticks with you long after the movie's over. For me, I think that's why this has endured for so long in the cinema realm. At times, it does look its age, at least compared to modern effects-driven films. But there's an almost simplistic nature to some of it that at the same time, some of the sets are just elaborate and breathtaking. I think that's why it worked when it came out and why it continues to work now. The performances are great and really give a sense of the characters and their quirks. It's a simple tale in many ways, good and evil, and how they are connected. This continues to be a film the whole family can enjoy. There are moments younger viewers might find scary, but you'd have to base that off the child and what they are accustomed to. This is one that will be on my regular rotation of movies for many, many years to come, and it's one I also really need to upgrade to Blu-ray. My rating is an 8.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7.2 out of 10. So, I've had this one sitting to be reviewed forever, and I was going to wait until I reviewed the entire Friday the 13th franchise to do this one. But I've decided that you guys need to hear about it. And that is 2013's Crystal Lake Memories, the complete history of Friday the 13th.
I don't want to scare anyone, but I'm going to give it to you straight about Jason.
To me, he's the most fearsome, awesome, indestructible, mysterious figure in movie history.
The fans so adore this character. They like Jason more than they like the survivors.
The best horror movies find a way to tap into something that's truly human.
We don't know why, but it's something in us that likes to be scared.
Still to this day, it was the most terrifying thing I've ever shot.
I don't watch the movie. I pick somebody out in the audience and then watch the evolution of their heart attack.
The people just flew out of the seats and ran out of the theater.
The modern horror movie was kind of born.
The parents didn't want you to see it, which only made you want to see it that much more.
That's where the power lies, is Jason never dies because the audience brings him back to life.
Terror struck across my face, my heart. Everybody took me outside. Are you okay? Are you okay? No, I'm not okay.
This is directed by Daniel Farrens. It has a 400-minute runtime. Yes, you heard that right. 400 minutes. But it's well worth it. It's not rated, starring mostly everyone who's ever been involved in the Friday the 13th franchise, narrated by Corey Feldman. I watched this on Shudder. A chronicle of the history of the Friday the 13th franchise. Pretty straightforward and to the point. If you're a fan of the Friday the 13th franchise like I am, this is a must-watch. Its candid and fascinating look into one of cinema's most beloved horror franchises. Narrated by Corey Feldman, it explores each film in the franchise in an in-depth manner with cast and crew interviews. There are plenty of interesting facts and thoughts, and I learned a lot of stuff about each film that I didn't know. They even cover the reboot Freddy vs. Jason and the television series. I would be hard-pressed to recommend this to someone who isn't a fan of the films or has seen all of them, as there are spoilers and it clocks in at nearly 7 hours long. But, as I said, for those folks like me who are diehard fans of the series, this is a must-watch. My rating is a 9 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is an 8.7 out of 10. So we're going to get into a slew of newer releases that have come out all within, I think, the last 6 months or pretty close to it. And we're going to kick it off with one of the best documentaries I have seen in a very long time. That isn't Crystal Lake Memories that I just talked about. And that is 2018's Won't You Be My Neighbor?
A television program for children made its unauspicious debut on station WQED in Pittsburgh. Its host, Fred Rogers.
Mr. Rogers?
Yeah?
I want to tell you something.
What would you like to tell me?
I like you.
I like you, my dear. Thank you very much for telling me that.
You take all of the elements that make good television and do the exact opposite. You have Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Low production values, simple set, unlikely star. Yet, it worked.
Hello. I've always felt that I didn't need to put on a funny hat or jump through the hoop to have a relationship with a child.
He was always trying to get a message across in every show.
A week on death.
What does assassination mean?
On divorce.
Some people get married, and after a while, they're so unhappy that they don't want to be married anymore.
He was radical. I know everyone says that, but he was radical.
They didn't want black people to come and swim in their swimming pools. My being on the program was a statement for Fred.
A neighborhood was a place where, at times that you felt worried, scared, unsafe, would take care of you.
He had a singular vision of kindness and love.
Love is at the root of everything. All learning, all relationships, love or the lack of it. Children have very deep feelings, just the way everybody does. There must be times when you do feel blue. I'm not feeling blue right now, though.
Me neither.
Won't you be my neighbor? Well, I suppose it's an invitation. It's an invitation for somebody to be close to you. The greatest thing that we can do is to help somebody know that they're loved and capable of loving. Won't you please, please won't you be my neighbor?
This is a documentary biography directed by Morgan Neville. Has a 94-minute runtime, rated PG-13, stars Joanne Rogers, Betty Aberline, and David Bianchi. I watched this on DVD. An exploration of the life, lessons, and legacy of iconic children's television host Fred Rogers. I can't even say that line without just grinning from ear to ear because, like many kids my age, I grew up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. It was a childhood staple, and I thought I may not, even though I may have not realized it at the time, something I took many life lessons away from. I've wanted to watch this documentary since I first heard about it. Luckily, I found it available to rent and had my chance to view it. It's an interesting look at Fred Rogers, a man who brought so much joy to children, an adult who connected with us and made us feel like we mattered. He was a person that spoke to us in a way we could understand. We learned how to be a good friend, a good person, a good neighbor because of him. This takes us on a journey of what he was like in real life, why he did what he did, and what it meant to so many people. If Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was part of your life, this is worth watching. I'll be honest, there were more than a few moments throughout this that made me tear up a little. It makes you think about life, where we are as a society, and how much we need someone like Mr. Rogers in our lives now. I took way more away from this than I could have ever expected. It's powerful, well-crafted, and a beautiful look at a person who made such a difference in the lives of so many. My rating for this is a 9 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is an 8.6 out of 10. Up next, this was kind of one of those movies that was, it seemed to be kind of contentious. So I didn't bother to go see it in the theater. I really didn't have any desire to go see it in the theater. But I was like, I'll give it a chance on video. And you're going to hear my thoughts about that now. And that is 2018's Solo, A Star Wars Story.
You're after something.
Is it revenge? Money? Or is it something else?
You look good.
A little rough around the edges, but good.
Heard about a job. Big shot gangster putting together crew.
I'm a driver, and I'm a flyer. I waited a long time for a shot like this. What do you think? Well, what do you know?
You got a line on a ship?
Yeah, I know a guy. He's the best smuggler around.
I heard a story about you. I was wondering if it's true. Everything you've heard about me is true. L3! Let go of the mean man's face.
Who are these guys?
If you come with us, you're in this life for good.
You might want to buckle up, baby.
Here they come! Let me give you some advice. Assume everyone will betray you, and you will never be disappointed.
I got a really good feeling about this.
Since when do you know how to fly?
190 years old? You look great.
Push it!
So glad we took this job!
This is an action-adventure fantasy directed by Ron Howard, has a 135-minute runtime, rated PG-13, stars Alden Ehrenreich, Woody Harrelson, and Emilia Clarke. I watched this on Blu-ray. During an adventure into the criminal underworld, Han Solo meets his future co-pilot Chewbacca and encounters Lando Calrissian years before joining the rebellion. As I said, I didn't bother to go see this in the theater. Between the issues that were prevalent during the filmmaking and the poor press, I figured it was probably safe to wait until it came out on video. I actually had rented this before and didn't end up getting to watch it. It took a second rental to finally get a chance to view it. While this film has a few noticeable issues, I actually really enjoyed it. There are some good visuals, funny moments, and I love the early Chewbacca-Han dynamic. That was easily my favorite part of the film. I thought most of the acting was good. And I'm going to say this, Donald Glover rocked as Lando. He was a perfect casting choice. Truthfully, the only one of the cast that I thought felt a little awkward at times was Han. While I don't think it was bad, it felt kind of wooden. I realize the character is some big shoes to step in. It would be hard for anyone to portray such a beloved character and not have it quite be the same as the original. So I cut it a little bit of slack. The only issue that I thought was really noticeable was the pacing. While not horrible, it does feel a tad disjointed at times. That said, it still moves at a fairly brisk pace for a 2-hour-plus film. After watching this, I feel like part of the reason it didn't do as well as some of the other Star Wars films is simply because of toxic fandom and people not giving it a fair chance. While I love these movies and hold them near and dear to my heart, I've never understood how and why fans get so upset when something is a bit different. I want different. I want fresh voices and different takes. You can only eat vanilla pudding for so long before it gets boring. Don't bitch about wanting something different, then complain when it happens. You still have the vanilla to go back to. It's not like it has disappeared completely. No, this isn't the best movie in the universe, but it sure as hell isn't the worst. If you've been up in the air about checking this one out, give it a chance. The worst case that will happen is you won't like it. But maybe, just maybe, you will. My rating is a 7.5 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 7 out of 10. So I'm going to end this with a couple of post-apocalypse type flicks. And one was a surprise, one I have been waiting to see. So we're going to go with a surprise first, and that is 2018's Death Race 4 Beyond Anarchy.
Death Race is for sociopathic killers. You gotta have gravel in your guts. You have to live for the smell of motor oil and high-octane fuel. You gotta love the sound of rubber on asphalt. The taste of blood in your mouth. And the sound of bullets whizzing past your head. You made of that stuff?
If I'm not, then I die, right?
The containment zone warehouses 200,000 of the worst. There are two options: die or survive.
Death Race gives anyone the opportunity to become king. Do you think you can handle being king of this mountain?
I'm just here to race.
Driving is more important than killing. Think slow, drive fast.
Come on, kid! Don't let me down! You gotta win this race!
Targeted killing is his forte. And I am his mark. Got something for you, baby.
Gotta love race day!
Death Race Beyond Anarchy, unrated and unhinged. January 30th on Blu-ray and digital.
This is an action film. Directed by Don Michael Paul, has a 111-minute runtime. It is a hard R, and I do say hard, it's like borderline NC-17, starring Lucy Arden, Nicholas Aaron, and Josette Amos. Also, Danny Glover and Danny Trejo. A couple of Dannys in there. I watched this one on Netflix. After an attack on inmate Frankenstein fails, a black ops specialist enters the maximum prison to join the illegal death race and take down Frankenstein. I have only watched the first modern age death race. It was pretty enjoyable. I haven't heard many good things about the subsequent sequels, but I figured I might as well give this a shot. It was also the roulette pick for my guest spot on the Movie Freaks podcast, and I did talk a little bit about it on there. I was surprised how much I enjoyed this one. While it at times tries to do a little too much with the story, it's a damn good action-packed, brutally violent film. They don't pull any punches when it comes to the violence. In fact, it's rather gory at times and loaded with nudity. All set to a thumping soundtrack of metal and rap. This is pretty much just what you'd expect. The acting ranges from okay to bad. There are some good action sequences, and the special effects are actually really damn good. One thing I did like was the look of the film. It has a grimy, filthy look to it. That helps set the stage and tone of the entire movie. It has a few ups and downs pace-wise, but for the most part, the hour 50 runtime doesn't feel too painful. If you want high art, this isn't it. If you want something that's short on story, but loaded on blood, violence, action, and nudity, well, this just might be the film you're looking for. In a lot of ways, this is a throwback to over-the-top 80s action films with a slightly modern twist. My rating is a 6 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.3 out of 10. And we're going to wrap up this review cast with a film that I have been waiting to see for a while since I first saw the trailer. And I'm going to kind of tell you why in the review, so I'm not going to, hang around too long hyping it up. That is 2018's The Domestics.
It started just like any other day. Then everything we thought we knew was gone. The lucky ones were dead in seconds. And when the country crumbled, we divided ourselves into tribes. Gamblers, sheets, plowboys, cherries, nailers, and us, the domestics. gymnastics.
So you're really doing this?
Yep. You know, it's probably the stupidest thing I've ever done.
You get one flat tire, you're dead.
Miss Milwaukee, this is Eagle. Over.
Mom, I just wanted to let you know that we're on our way.
We set out across 200 miles, through 8 gang territories.
We should stay off the roads. Crash here for the night.
You think it's safe?
Find out.
I don't want to die here.
Hold it. All I'm looking for was a handshake. Go. My wife and I would like to invite you both over for dinner. What? Oh, sorry, late lunch. People didn't survive. We did.
This is a sci-fi thriller directed by Mike P. Nelson, not to be confused with Michael J. Nelson of Mystery Science Theater 3000 fame. It has a 95-minute runtime, rated R, stars Kate Bosworth, Tyler Hoechlin, and Sonia Mizuno. I watched this one on DVD. In a terrifying post-apocalyptic world inhabited by gangs divided into deadly factions, a husband and wife race desperately across the countryside in search of safety and must work together as they are pushed to the breaking point in order to survive. When I first saw the trailer for this, I was immediately interested. It looked like a throwback to crazy 80s post-apocalypse flicks. It was also nice to see the Orion Pictures logo attached to it. Let's face it, if you grew up in the 80s, early 90s, there was a certain level of expectations when you saw that logo. And yeah, maybe that wasn't necessarily always good, but there was that level of expectation. I finally noticed this was available to rent from Redbox, so I decided to snag it and give it a view. Going into this film, I was expecting it to go one of two ways. I figured it would either be along the lines of something like Mad Max, or it was going to be a balls-to-the-wall splatterfest and really grab onto the over-the-top nature some of those apocalypse films of the past lean towards. My preconceived notions about what this film was going to be were very, very wrong. I'm not 100% sure how I really feel about this film. While it has its moments of both of the above-mentioned things I expected, it really doesn't follow the guidelines of either of those tropes. This film felt more like a drama with action elements. In a way, it's a love story between the main characters and about their relationship. The other elements are secondary. Honestly, I was a bit thrown off by this. The acting, effects, and score are all very well done. Everything fits together nicely in those aspects. The story itself is entertaining. It does at times feel a little bit too crammed into the runtime it was given. I think this is one of those rare cases where the film could have been given another 20 minutes or so longer and benefit from it. At the end of the day, I think this is a pretty solid film. It wasn't what I was expecting, but delivered enough to where I enjoyed it. This is, without a doubt, one of those films I'm going to need to watch a second time to really gauge how I feel about it. I think if you go into it knowing it's not a balls-to-the-wall action film, it's a little slower paced at times, I think you'll be okay. In the end, I think this is a nice change of pace when it comes to this particular subgenre of action film. And, one thing I wanted to add is this is one of those films where I think that the trailer is a bit misleading. Don't get me wrong. It does everything that's in the trailer from what I remember is, in the film. But the way they set the trailer up, it really doesn't quite capture the same tone as the film. At least I didn't feel like it. Maybe you will. Go and actually watch the trailer. I know I played it at the beginning of the review, but go and actually watch a trailer if you haven't seen this, and then watch the movie, because I am very curious to hear what the listeners have to say about this one. My rating for this is a 6 out of 10. The average IMDb rating is a 5.7 out of 10. But as I said, I'm really not sure where I feel about this one. The more I thought about this, since I wrote the review, I'm kind of leaning towards like a little bit higher of a rating, but I really am not going to know until I watch it a second time. So yeah, it's an interesting film. I will give it that. And it's just cool to see the Orion's logo back up there again on the screen. So that's going to wrap up this edition of Average Joe's Drive-In Reviewcast. And like I said, Jamie Gagnon will be on next week. I have some awesome guests lined up, some people coming back that I haven't had on for quite a while, and I'm really looking forward to talking to. We're creeping up on episode 100. That's still kind of, it's just like, I think if it all pans out right, episode 100 is actually going to be one of the first episodes of 2019. So that's kind of fitting, I guess. So it's going to be interested in, thank you for everybody that continues to listen to the show and continues to spread the word about the show. I really appreciate everybody tuning in, and make sure you stick around to the very end to hear where you can find Average Joe's Drive-In on the internet. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to my sponsors, the Maine Cannababes, www.mainecannababes.com, to find out all kinds of cool information. And they are all over social media, so you can also find them on whatever social media tool is your choice of poison, I guess, and having the trouble speaking today. Sorry. But hey, anyway, I'm your host, TJ Washburn. Thank you guys. And remember, kids, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one, and I will see you sexy animals on the flip side.
It's intermission. Rise and stretch time. Time to refresh yourself and visit our snack bar. Got a yen for hot popcorn? Your favorite soft drinks are sparkling cold. The juicy Frank sizzling hot. There's delicious coffee, freshly brewed, and all kinds of ice cream and candy to tempt you. Showtime will be announced loud and clear to get you back to your car in time. So stretch your legs. Come to the snack bar now.
Thanks for listening to Average Joe's Drive-In. If you'd like to talk movies or contact the show, add our social media pages. You can add us on Facebook at Average Joe's Drive-In Podcast, on Twitter at TWJ Author, on Instagram at Thomas Washburn Jr. You can also hit up www.thomaswashburnjr.com for more information about the show and related links. If you'd like to support the show, you can buy TJ's books on Amazon. Just type in Thomas Washburn Jr. in the search. Books are available in Kindle and paperback formats. If you have Kindle Unlimited or Prime, you can read the books for free and money will be earned by the pages read. It doesn't cost you anything and it supports the show. Until next time, you've been listening to Average Joe's Drive-In.